You're starting with one layer, right? The image. And then slowly you're trying to make it more and more complex. So the person that's looking at it goes, wow, how the hell did he manage to get that, and that, and that at the same time? Because then it just looks like everything else that's out there on social media. It's not like you're going to go out there and bang out incredible images every day. I'm not going to rip it to shreds any of the images completely, because I realize given circumstances. But yeah, it needs a little bit more work.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. And today I'm here with photographer Phil Penman, who is a New York-based black and white photographer. Hello Phil, thank you for coming.
Hey, hi Martin, thanks for having me on the show.
So the idea behind this is that I would like to show you the photos of people from our community, and I would like to ask you to critique those, or maybe to look at those as if you would take those photos, or maybe as if someone during your workshop took those photos.
Sounds good to me.
Just a quick note, some photos are purposely picked not to be the best shots.
That's the best way though.
Yeah.
Because you don't learn anything if it's only good ones.
Yeah. All right.
You know, and there's nothing, the thing is you might have 5 really great ones in your life. So the idea when you go out and shoot is you're just trying to become a more consistent photographer. It's not like you're going to go out there and bang out incredible images every day. It might be that you have a 2-week stint where you do get great images every day, and then it might be a 2-3 month period where you see nothing. So we're just trying to become more consistent so you can go out there and just get good images every day, and you cut out the crap. So if you're not learning from the bad ones, then you're not learning anything.
All right. So let's take a look at the first one.
Okay, so what do we have here? It's nice lighting. I like the shadow depth you've got there, but I don't know if I would have necessarily included the person, or if I did, I would like to see a little bit more of them. It's kind of like in between there. As far as editing, looks nice. Maybe a little bit of detail on the left, I probably would have burnt out a little bit. I tend to do a lot of dodging and burning myself, so any little details I can see in the edit that I find distracting. I personally feel I would have maybe waited. It would have been nice to have had the person probably in the light maybe a little bit earlier, but all that shot through, it looks like it might be shot through something. Yeah, you know what? I probably would have had it without the person and just kept it a very abstract image.
Oh, as a letter, which I believe that's an X or something like that.
It looks like an X. I think really you just needed to wait for a little different lighting scenario. It would have worked better if this was a little bit more lit and we could actually see the full letter.
And is it a scene that would naturally caught your eye if you would be like out shooting?
I don't really have any one discipline that I go out and shoot for. I feel like, you know, it's just photography at the end of the day. And, you know, if you see an interesting abstract image, then you shoot it. If you see a good street scene, shoot it. You know, it's very important to not kind of like pigeonhole yourself too much as a photographer, because you need to learn different disciplines, and you can take things that you learn from each discipline and apply it to your own, you know, your own creative style, you know, but I like the edit, you know, it's nice. It's a nice image.
And do you have like an advice, because I know you run one-to-one workshops. Maybe if you can tell me a little more about your workshops, and also what it usually looks like when you take your client out shooting.
I get them up really bloody early. That's what I do. So I've been shooting since I was like 15 years old. Started in the darkroom and then worked for agencies, news work. So I've acquired a lot of knowledge over my time. I primarily, these days, I shoot everything with Leica cameras, and I actually teach a lot for the Leica Academy. So I do different workshops around the world for them. But I also do one-to-one teaching in New York City. And also other countries. Like if I'm visiting London for a while and I have a workshop there, I'll do some one-to-ones. But, you know, generally people from all over the world, if they're coming to New York City, they reach out to me. I take them out. Typically we go out very early in the morning, shoot for about, we go out for about 12 hours, and we incorporate what they want to learn. So it's not me trying to tell them what to shoot, it's what they want to improve. And then we go to certain locations based on that. And then we work on the edit together as well. So taking it from the street right to the final image.
And is there something you specifically focus on with the black and white photography, opposing to, let's say, general color photography?
No, I have to shoot color as well. So, you know, obviously you wouldn't go very far in photography, especially commercially, if all you shot was black and white. So I shoot color, I help people color as well. But as personally for my work, I like black and white. It's the way I started in the darkroom, and it's the one thing that brings me the most happiness when I shoot it. So,
and what's the difference for you in terms of I don't know, design maybe, or information?
It's simplicity. It's you focus. There's not the distraction of color, and it kind of strips away a lot of things. It's also it's a lot of fun to shoot black and white when you're out on the street as well. So, you know, I typically use electronic viewfinder that I put on top of my M cameras, and I use a Leica M10 monochrome, and I have an M11, but you can actually set the viewfinder up so that you see the world in black and white, and it's a nice fun experience. And also for those of you like looking to learn practice composition, it's an easy way of just helping yourself see lighting, work on composition, because you're taking away the distraction of color. The raw files still, if you're shooting with a color camera, the raw file is still color, but it just helps you see things clearly.
So you decide later in the post, whenever the picture is working in black and white or in color, or do you know right away when you take the shot?
The monochrome doesn't give me a choice. It just says,
all right.
But yeah, no, sometimes, you know, I like to go out in really foul weather conditions, and sometimes that can look a lot better in color. So you can play, you know, when it's it's weird because even like my color street stuff looks very black and white. It's like hints of color. It's never really truly full on in your face Martin Parr style.
Okay. All right, so moving on to the next shot.
What do we have here? It looks like a street scene. I'm not sure where this was taken, but I know I almost feel like if you're going to use people, then you got to use them. You know, right now we're not really getting anything from this. It would have worked better without the people and just be like a texture shot. Yeah, it's not really doing anything for me with the people, to be honest. Like I said, if you're going to see him, you want to see him. So this one needs a little bit of work, but I would have, I think the place itself is enough.
All right. You also shoot a lot of silhouettes, right? Do you think the position of the people is like important in this one? Maybe the gestures or something like that?
If you were going to do a silhouette, then you'd have to use it. So you would use either, you know, normally if you're doing like silhouette stuff, with silhouette stuff, it's tough because you never want it just to be the focal point of an image, because then it just looks like everything else that's out there on social media. So the hard part is, how do you incorporate that as just part of a larger scene? So like using it maybe as a layer in an image. So, you know, the key to it is always watch your bright spot behind to create isolation. So something like this, you know, if you had one lone subject maybe over here and you were shooting lower to the ground and you had this behind you, that would create some kind of silhouette, or maybe this bright spot over here. But you always need that isolation if you're going to shoot silhouette stuff. So you're positioning your body in relation to the person and what is behind them. So even little things like this would cause distraction, like it interferes. But this is, it's not working,
All right.
in my opinion.
Moving on to the next one.
Okay, that's a nice little street scene. Yeah, very nice. Got a lot going on. I love all the different expressions you've got. I'm always thinking like this, obviously it's very difficult because when you're shooting stuff like this, it's all about the flow of movement. As you're shooting, these people are moving, right? So you're looking for that perfect composition where everything kind of just flows together. It's like this pattern. And I almost feel like this head here coming out of the top, I almost feel like she needs to be a little bit further over. And that would just require you moving. Or, you know, what I would have done is I would have not included her and tried to have gotten maybe
the girl
a
on
little
the right.
bit. Yeah, this girl, not this one, because it's always kind of nice if you can use people in the foreground to like frame something. But it's just it's almost there. It's just not quite balanced. I think it requires a little bit of moving. So, you know, it's nice, but maybe you would have needed to come down a little bit more lower. I probably would have just lost this girl altogether and I would have kneeled down a little bit lower. Usually you never try to crop someone's feet off if you're going to show them like that. Usually you try to show the full body. I probably would have knelt down a little bit more, try to like lose this girl by coming down so that all you see is this head, but it's lower to the frame. So she would be more up here. Framing this, I think that probably would have worked a little bit better, because this space, negative space, isn't quite working for me, because this is kind of like, but it's a very nice image. It's just not It's nearly there.
Moving on to the next one.
This looks like my old country. So small little details. You know, one of my old mentors, Larry Schwartzwald, who unfortunately passed away, used to hammer this home with me, verticals and horizontal lines. If you're going to use it for effect, just make sure you rotate it so that it is straight. This isn't quite straight. Okay. Also, I probably would have centered this up a little bit more, brought my crop in. Edit wise, it needs a little bit more. You need to see a little bit more detail in here. You could go in and dodge the light spots. Picture wise though, it needs more expression. Like I need to, you know, I'm not really seeing any faces. I would have wanted to see more of this. So it might have been hanging around and shooting a few more images to get maybe an expression of maybe the man like looking up at them. Or it needs to be tighter, or you would have to move your body position. But it needs that little bit more.
Or maybe like a crop, because this is obviously shot from the other side of the street, right? And if you have like a fixed focal length.
If you'd made this maybe a full length, sorry, not full length, a vertical where you crop in the middle and make it more about this and this, the guy in the middle, and crop to the right and the left, and make it a vertical image and cut the guy out over here on the right hand side, like lose him altogether, because that might work as a stronger image. But I'd still want to see some more facial expression from the guy. But yeah, it needs, you know, obviously, like the closer in you can get, obviously with the police, that's easier said than done, especially in England. I remember covering many protests and many things, and I had my picture taken by the police more than I did of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that used to be how they used to do the surveillance. So like anyone who they considered a troublemaker, they would have like a police photographer going around with the police, and they would be pointing out to members in the public or photographers to take their picture, so they had it on record. This was before CCTV was everywhere.
All right. And you mentioned it briefly, the aspect ratio, how you would crop it maybe vertically instead of horizontal. Is there like a rule of thumb you use to for your images or for the scene you approach to either take it horizontal or vertical?
The key, if as a press photographer, if you were doing this, you'd have to shoot both. The client or the paper you were working for would want to see both. So that's just rule of thumb. You shoot wide, landscape, vertical. That's just a given that you do that, because the layout of the page in the paper is usually preset. So the copy is already put on the, just, you know, for example, obviously the photographer who took this might not have been thinking about this, but if any of you are out there and you're shooting for publication, usually what would happen is the layout is pre-done and the copy is laid down and there's a space for the picture, and it could be a landscape or a vertical. Your job is to have both covered so that they can choose. They have the picture to go in that space. So you don't get to dictate the layout of the paper for them. So if you were shooting something like this, you would cover your bases by shooting both the landscape and the vertical. And I just think maybe a vertical would have worked better on this anyway. Usually I keep my crops to aspect ratio. I don't like to do any strange cropping. And there's many different reasons for that. But yeah, I just think this is, it needs more work.
Moving on to the next one.
So we've got a guy clinging onto a pole and a guy clinging onto a woman. That's pretty good juxtaposition there. Yeah, I quite like that. There's a nice little bit of isolation because you've used good depth of focus so that your background is out of focus, and we concentrate on what's going on here. On my screen, it looks fairly grey. I probably would have liked to have seen a little bit more contrast in it. It needs a little bit more pop, but no, I like the scene. It's nice.
Moving on to the next one. It's like a portrait of a guy.
Yeah, nice portrait. Nice catch light in the eye, as we say. A good intense look. Yeah, nice. Yeah, really too much you can't say. I don't know about the pose. That's the only thing. So this is where you shoot a variety. I almost feel like a different pose and cutting out this pole on the right so that it's more about him with this background. You see what I mean? I think that might have been a little bit more powerful, or maybe I would have incorporated a little bit more of this. But yeah, it does. Very nice shot.
Moving on to the next one.
This looks like, yeah, nice emotional scene. Subway. Again, I think the edit needs a little bit of work, a little bit more pop to it, like a little bit more detail in here in the faces of the couple. You know what? It almost doesn't need this guy because you've got the motion blur of the train. I'm presuming that's a train in the background.
Mm-hmm.
You almost don't need this. It's almost just like this little moment of the couple is nice enough. But yeah, it needs a little bit of work on the edit, I'd say. And probably what I would have done if I was incorporating another person into the frame, I would have used yet another person on the right-hand side.
Okay.
So I would have framed them and had one person on the right, one person on the left. So your eye is drawn into the middle rather than, you know, this is kind of very heavy weighted to the left at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. It adds like a layer, but you are right. It feels a little too left heavy.
Yeah, you're adding layers to an image. That's the way you work out. So you're physically having to move around what's going on around you, but you have to have that idea of the image in your head. So you might move a little bit further back, and it might be that you want a little bit more depth of focus as well. So you would open up your aperture pretty wide open, because even the fact is that he's fairly close to them by the looks of it. There's not quite enough depth of focus as well to really lead you into them. But I would have moved around a bit more, shot a little bit more, and incorporated something on the right. Just made it maybe a little bit wider scene.
All right. Thank you.
No worries.
Moving on to the next one.
Moving on to the next. So same thing. We had a guy kind of almost silhouetted down in the stairwell. Oh, so I don't know if I probably would have cropped out this light. I would have brought this down a little bit. Usually when you have light spots, either in a corner or at the top, it's leading your eye away from the image. So I would have probably brought the crop in maybe a little bit tighter. It almost needs it. This is like the guy down here is like it's like an extra layer. I would have probably liked to have waited there a little bit longer and added something else coming down the stairwell. So it could have been like another person coming down the stairs, but they don't need to be crisp. I probably would have maybe tried some little bit of motion blur of someone coming down there. It just needs something else there to get the weight of this person here. That's probably what I would have done. But it's a nice idea. It's one of those moments where you just have to wait and try different things. So you're basically waiting for that moment. Like you're trying to put many things together at once. So you have an idea for an image, and then you're sitting there waiting for the timing, the perfect timing of someone here in the spot that you want, something here that works. And if you want to get even more cocky, you could try and get someone here as well. But it's a waiting game then.
Is this the way you sometimes do take photos, like finding a good spot and waiting for subjects to enter the scene? Or are you more like a run and gun? Both.
Don't limit yourself. You're missing pictures. So there's occasions where I have to run and gun it. But if you can become a photographer where you can do everything. Like you can pre-envision pictures, you can shoot candid moments on the street, you can, like if you saw an image like this and you pre-visualize something, you're trying to create this image where someone's going, how the hell did he get that? I don't like to edit, I don't like to add people to images or just take people out of images. It has to be taken in shot when you're shooting. But it might be that you're starting with one layer, right? The image. And then slowly you're trying to make it more and more complex. So the person that's looking at it goes, wow, how the hell did he manage to get that, and that, and that at the same time? And you're waiting for all these small moments to happen. And then you might try something else where you might try it with a slow shutter speed. And it's just experimenting, really.
Moving on to the next one.
Yeah. So it's okay. I like the use of the lines. It probably would have been better if he was turning and facing, but eating the pizza at the camera. It's okay. Edit wise, not too bad. Managed to keep the midtones. I don't like it when you go too contrasty and you lose all the midtones as well. But I just feel like it needs, you set up your composition, but this needs to be more. Like it needs that. If you're going to incorporate the person, it needs to be some kind of wow moment, right? Okay. So looking at the frame, giving with the pizza, maybe something a little bit more intense might have worked better. Okay. So yeah, I like stuff like this, a little bit of motion blur, got kind of a grainy image. Edit wise, I probably would have gone and brightened up certain areas of the stairwell. Nice, something different, a little bit of movement, not afraid of experimenting with something. So yeah, nice effort. Yeah, it's nice. A little contrasty for my liking, but that's all personal preference. Some people like very contrasty images. This, I almost feel like the doorway here is too bright, so I would have toned this down a little bit, because it's like it's competing with the person. This is much brighter than this, so I probably would have toned this all down more. You know, you got to think whenever you shoot anything, you're thinking about what's the point of interest that you're trying to draw the subject into. And I'm guessing when the photographer took this that it wasn't this doorway. So if it's this person, you know, the only reason I can imagine that you've added all this on the right is because you wanted to show the architecture and location, because otherwise this image could have worked well just as a vertical with just this person behind the window, and you would use just this frame. The image could have worked just like that as a vertical, where you crop out all the right altogether. Or if you are going to incorporate all the right, I would have probably shot it wider, so that you saw more of both of the windows, so that you didn't have this weird crop. And I would have toned down this in the middle, so that you could have shot this many different ways to make it easier.
Okay.
Okay, so couple looking at each other,
kind of like a similar shot we had previously in front of the train.
You know, it just needs basically your positioning. I think where you're holding the camera, really. So if you're trying to catch an emotional response, you want to see a bit more of her face, so the camera would have needed to be higher to see her, or you would have needed to move around to the right to catch that, and maybe you get the response of him looking at her as well. Edit wise needs a little bit of work. It's just a little bit flat. Like you could have always shot it for the round over here as well, because you can see that this light is picking up the face this side, so you could have used that light if you'd come around to the left and shot it. But shoulda, coulda, woulda, you know, it could have been a quick moment just like that. And it's all very nice in hindsight, us telling you how to do it, but for all we know, it could have been a split-second moment that you saw. So I'm not going to rip it to shreds any of the images completely, because I realize given circumstances. But yeah, it needs a little bit more work. Okay, next up we have an artist by the looks of it. I'm not sure if it's just my screen or it's very flat.
It's very different edit, I would say.
Yeah, it's you stripped out all the blacks and the whites are blown out from what I can see. So you can see, like on the easel, the whites are they're kind of like a murky gray, right? The same for the light on the background. So, you know, it might be that editing style is your personal preference. You know, you like stripping out all the blacks and all the whites, and it's just a very flat image. Personally, you know, I like stuff with a deep black. So, you know, but the idea behind the image, yeah, it's a nice idea. And I think the edit itself is very personal, whether you like it or not. Moving on, where's this taken? This looks like Rome or something like that. It looks like Italy to me from the fashion, and I don't know, it's just, it's this stuff with the pole here and everything. It's kind of distracting. It's not adding anything. We're not really seeing any expression. You know, there's nice light on the side of the building, but we need more than that. I don't know. This guy, what looks like laundry or something, it's not really adding anything to the frame. I would have cropped all of that out if I was, or I would have shot it differently. I think you have a little bit of light on the wall here. I'm not sure if that's light there. Yeah, it's you know, it needs more work when you're shooting it, really. Start looking at all these details. Like, you have this beautiful architecture, right? And then you've got this horrible pole here. So, and it's not even incorporating that into the frame. So if anything, to me, you know, if you want to show off this beautiful architecture, then you've got to look at all the details in the frame and strip away all the stuff that doesn't work. And that pole is not really doing anything to add to the frame. So, and it probably would have been nicer if you'd seen somebody's face, like, but yeah, need some work.
I have a last picture.
That's one of mine. Yeah, shit.
No, I really like it.
This was actually doing a one-to-one class with somebody. So this was us. We headed out early together, and I could see that there was fog on the water. So I'll start in a general area, and then I'll look at what the light's doing, and then I'll look at what the weather's doing. So I could see that there was clearly a fog on the water, and you know that it's going to go quickly. So you're almost running. because you're trying to you're trying to pre-visualize the picture that you want. So mine is I was trying to use the weather as atmosphere in the background with the bridge, and then just using we were basically working on how you can use how iconic structures as just part of a layer in an image. So the image isn't about the Brooklyn Bridge. That's just an element of the bridge. Yeah. You know, this was just something I did quickly when we were out walking about. So
what's important if you want to incorporate something like that, like a Brooklyn Bridge or, I don't know, Statue of Liberty, something like that? Because I know you take a lot of shots with those in the background, right?
Yeah. It's just it's using it as a layer to give location. That's all. It's not the center point of an image. It's something that you can learn. It's a good way to learn experimenting with different places. So, you know, you can go out anywhere where you live, right? And you know what the kind of the iconic spots are. And I'm sure you've all seen what the iconic images are of where you live, right?
Yeah.
Just go out, stand there for a while and try to think about what hasn't been done. And there's always something that hasn't been done, okay? It's just you haven't seen it yet. So really try to push yourself. Go out one day and just go to that local location where you are and look at every little thing around that angle. It might be that the image is a block away or that there's always something that hasn't been done.
All right.
It's a good little test. I do it all the time. Whenever I'm lacking some inspiration, it's a way to force yourself to go and think outside the box.
Perfect.
No worries.
So thank you for joining me today.
No problem at all, man. I hope you got what you need from it, and I tried to be as nice as I could.
No, it was very insightful. Thank you for your insight.
No worries. I'm not going to go and say people's work is shit. That does absolutely nothing and doesn't help anybody.
No, I think it was constructive critique.
Okay.
So thank you very much and have a great day.
No problem, man. You stay well, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.